Welcome to today's explainer. All right, I want you to be totally honest with yourself for just a second. We're going to decode a pretty uncomfortable secret about the human mind today. It's something literally all of us experienced, but almost nobody actually talks about. So imagine you hear some news about someone you really, really don't like. Let's say maybe they failed at a project they wouldn't stop bragging about, or maybe something just didn't go their way. And for a brief, fleeting moment, you feel it, don't you? A quiet, unspoken spark of satisfaction. Or maybe they got embarrassed in public. Just take a second and notice what you feel in that exact moment. It isn't sympathy. It certainly isn't concern. It's a sudden, almost involuntary lift in your own mood. But then, almost immediately, your brain catches up and a thought follows. Why did that feel good? Are you a bad person for enjoying that, or is there something much deeper happening inside your mind? Today, we're putting on our detective hats to solve this central mystery. What does this brief little moment of pleasure actually reveal about our emotional survival, our insecurities, and the way our brains process comparison? Section 1, the secret we all hide. Naming the taboo. Okay, let's dive right into this by normalizing the feeling from the get-go. If you felt this, I promise you aren't evil. Psychologists actually have a specific word for this emotion. It's called schadenfreude, which is a German term meaning pleasure derived from another person's misfortune. But look, just naming the taboo doesn't really explain it, right? The real question we need to answer in this explainer is why this exists in the first place. Why on earth would your brain's underlying operating system reward misfortune in someone else? Section 2. The invisible social scoreboard, how the brain ranks. Well, the answer lies in how our minds are constantly and entirely unconsciously measuring our status against the people around us. Think of it like this. Every single social interaction becomes a silent scoreboard. Who's more successful? Who's more attractive? Who is more respected, more powerful, or just further ahead in life? When someone you dislike is ahead of you in this invisible ranking, it creates an immense internal tension. Your brain actually feels lower. So when a rival drops on the scoreboard because of a failure or an embarrassment, your brain experiences a sort of soft reset of status. And that recalibration, it registers entirely as relief. Section 3. Envy and ego protection. The hidden engines. Let's see how this builds, because it's time to uncover the true emotions that are actually masquerading as simple dislike. We always like to think the opposite of love is hate, but psychologically speaking, the opposite of love is actually indifference. Strong emotional dislike usually has something far, far more painful hiding underneath it, and that's envy. Envy is incredibly painful because it highlights a gap in success, attention, or status between you and them. So when bad news arrives about someone you resent, it mentally shrinks that painful gap. For a split second, the imbalance corrects itself, and your brain literally registers that correction as a reward. And this brings us to another fascinating layer of our emotional defense mechanism. As the saying goes, the ego is not arrogance, it is identity protection. When someone you dislike succeeds, your mind immediately asks, wait, why them and not me? That inherently threatens your sense of self. So using someone else's failure is basically an emotional defense mechanism to soothe your shaken self-worth. It tells your ego, see, they aren't above you after all. It's not logic, guys. It's just your brain desperately trying to reduce internal discomfort. Section 4, the social media amplifier, comparison on overdrive. Now, technology has basically poured absolute gasoline on this ancient psychological reflex. In the past, you might hear the occasional piece of gossip about a rival. But today, human life is broadcasted as a constant highlight reel, mixed right in with public vulnerabilities. So when you see a flawless influencer post about dropping their brand new phone in a puddle, or a rival post about a major career setback, your brain processes that less than perfect news simply as relief. Because we are exposed to constant comparison triggers online, it's just a quiet moment where your brain sighs and says, okay, phew, they aren't untouchable. Section 5, the cost of comparison, the hidden pain. Here's what's really wild. This fleeting satisfaction doesn't actually stem from you being cruel. It stems from your own internal pressure to be enough. We don't feel schadenfreude toward everyone. Our brain selects very specific targets who hold emotional relevance to us. For instance, we have the aspirational. They represent something you desperately want. Then there's the mirror. These people remind you of your own deep insecurities. There's the rival, who competes directly with your identity. And finally, the trigger. People who simply make you feel inadequate. The stronger your emotional link to these insecurities, the stronger the spark of satisfaction when they stumble. It is never actually about them. It is entirely about what they represent inside your own mind. So, the absolutely crucial point here is the sheer danger of this mindset. Every single time your brain finds pleasure in someone else's downfall, it reinforces a really toxic pattern. My peace depends on others doing worse. Relying on comparison creates a dangerous dependency where your self-worth is constantly regulated externally. Sure, you feel temporarily good when they fail, but you quickly feel empty who hold emotional relevance to us. For instance, we have the aspirational. They represent something you desperately want. Then there's the mirror. These people remind you of your own deep insecurities. There's the rival, who competes directly with your identity. And finally, the trigger. People who simply make you feel inadequate. The stronger your emotional link to these insecurities, the stronger the spark of satisfaction when they stumble. It is never actually about them. It is entirely about what they represent inside your own mind. So, the absolutely crucial point here is the sheer danger of this mindset. Every single time your brain finds pleasure in someone else's downfall, it reinforces a really toxic pattern. My peace depends on others doing worse. Relying on comparison creates a dangerous dependency where your self-worth is constantly regulated externally. Sure, you feel temporarily good when they fail, but you quickly feel empty.